welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're demystifying the 8 foundational philosophies of education. We're going to take what usually feels like incredibly dense academic theory and turn it into a super clear, structured journey. If you've ever sat in a classroom and thought, why on earth are we learning it this way, or who actually decided this is what matters? Well, the answer is right here. It all comes down to these 8 pillars. So let's make sense of the whole shebang. Okay, let's dive right into the overarching question that has literally challenged philosophers and teachers for centuries. What is the true purpose of education? It sounds simple, right? But how we answer this one question dictates how we treat every single student in the classroom. It shapes absolutely everything, from the textbooks we pick to how the desks are arranged to how we grade exams. It all stems from a core belief about what education is actually supposed to achieve. To make this super easy to digest, we've broken it down into 4 main thematic pairings: mind versus real world, classics versus core subjects, practicality and individual freedom, and finally, rebuilding a better society. Section 1. Mind versus real world. For centuries, thinkers have argued over what truly matters. On one side, we've got idealism. This philosophy prioritizes the intangible, the mind, the soul, human intellect. It's all about inner development. But then, on the flip side, is realism. Realists argue that the physical, material world is what actually matters. They focus heavily on equipping people with practical science and actionable skills. Because, let's face it, people ultimately need to earn a living in a physical economy. To a realist, education absolutely has to serve the economy and help students survive in the real world. Section 2. Classics versus core subjects. So once you've decided between the mind and the real world, you actually have to pick the specific subjects you're going to teach. Perennialists believe that old, classic literature contains these unchanging, universal truths. They championed this whole great books movement, arguing that the wisdom of the past is essential because, well, truth doesn't change. Essentialists, on the other hand, take a much more streamlined approach. They look at both idealism and realism, and they just extract the most useful elements from both. They aren't interested in teaching absolutely everything, they just want to hammer home the core subjects you actually need to function in modern life. Think about the foundational 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. By prioritizing these specific, mandatory skills, essentialism essentially forms the bedrock of almost every standard school syllabus today. If your school hammered home reading comprehension and math drills, you were definitely living in an essentialist world. It's all about mastering those core basics. Section 3. Practicality and individual freedom. But what if education isn't just about reading ancient texts or doing repetitive math drills? Enter pragmatism. This philosophy steps completely away from rigid traditional subjects to ask a very direct question: is what we are learning actually useful? It is strictly focused on practical problem solving. If a concept doesn't help a student tackle an everyday real-life challenge, a pragmatist argues it simply shouldn't be in the curriculum. Education has to have an immediate, practical use. Now, existentialism takes a totally different, wildly individualized path. It explicitly values personal, human freedom above all else and fiercely argues against forced discipline. It even completely rejects the idea of comparing one student's grades to another's. Why? Because the ultimate goal here is self-exploration. By allowing students to explore their own interests and make choices freely, existentialists believe they'll naturally develop into responsible, self-guided citizens. Section 4. Rebuilding a better society. Okay, in this final stage, education shifts from just individual growth to sparking massive, global societal transformation. First up is progressivism, which honestly isn't just a teaching style, it's an entire social movement. It completely abandons forced discipline, advocating instead for letting children organically learn through direct, real-world experience entirely at their own pace. The core idea is that students shouldn't just be passive receivers of information, they should actively experience their education to properly grow. To truly understand our final philosophy, we have to look back at history for a second. In the past, our world was plagued by devastating global wars. And tragically, education systems were often weaponized. They were literally designed to teach a nation's children to hate their enemies. After witnessing that immense destruction, intellectuals realized the entire global system needed a drastic, fundamental overhaul. That realization birthed Reconstructionism, a philosophy built entirely on fixing a broken world. Instead of teaching division, Reconstructionists believe education is the ultimate tool to rebuild society from the ground up. We have to teach love, tolerance, and international unity to ensure those devastating global conflicts literally never happen again.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a second and look back at your own school experiences. Think about the emphasis on grades, the strictness of the discipline, or maybe the focus on real-world problem solving. Ask yourself, which of these 8 philosophies truly shape the way you learn today? And actually, more importantly, looking at the incredibly complex world around us right now, which one do you think should drive our education systems tomorrow? Thanks for joining me. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you in the next one.